The Moonshadow Ghost Theater. In Ethan, by now you know there are all manner of things. Some, in all honesty, I cannot form a whole story around. I do not by any means want to make you think that they are not worthy of full stories, but the truth is that I cannot tell you a proper story about them. Perhaps one day I will, but for now my knowledge of some things limits my attempt. Nevertheless, they are worth sharing. I once witnessed a coven's blood pact in progress, a rather spirited affair, with a thin crown of airy ghosts circling, whistling and singing as they did. There were no fewer than 3 corporeal spirits, one black, one red, one blue, each dancing how spirits do. That is, they hopped from foot to foot, shaking their arms like noodles in the air, their faces skyward, eyes closed, yowling like foxes in delight. There was a spitting fire in the middle, low and white-hot, with the head which, I assumed, crushing herbs and twigs into it. Faces formed and laughed while the sisters chanted. Altogether they ceased and went silent, staring at me a moment. They asked if I cared to celebrate the pact with them. I voiced my concern about my middling ability to dance and my unfamiliarity, but they assured me I would not ruin it, but the more the merrier. So they draped me in a borrowed robe, and I was shown by the black spirit how to dance like spirits do. I did my best, fumbling over the intricate chants, and watched as the sisters inducted a new member. They sent spells to wake the trees, who shook to welcome her, and whistled their leaves against the breeze, and rubbed their branches to clap. It was a joyous occasion. I felt special to attend. After some sparks and conjuring and oaths and vows, I went home with the warm feeling of sisterhood in my thoughts. They told me they were only just close by, the witches I mean. The spirits and ghosts had come from far away, and both of us extended standing invitations to visit. You never know who you might run into in Ethan, but friendly covens are always a good thing to have in your neighborhood. In Ethan, far to the north, tucked in a corner of the world, just before the mountains raise to scrape the sun and drip frigid water and spray ancient mist across the land, there is a city, faced such that it never sees the light of day. Instead, the people there see by the constant stream of shooting stars that slice the sky, or sometimes hang and burn out in dazzling spectacle, eyes closing as they flash to another sky far away. With no sun overhead, the buildings and streets look different each day, and each minute sometimes, as the night flares guide the people home and around. They think nothing of it. It is commonplace to them. But to you or I, it would be perpetual wonder, display, and phenomenon. To see a shooting star here at the edge of the great valley is no holiday, but often they are distant and barely bright enough to light the twinkle in your eye for a moment. I laid out one cold late summer evening to watch a meteor shower in my backyard once, but it was nothing compared to the running stars of this place. Each day 1,000 new shadows form, as endlessly changing as the possibilities in which there are to traipse across the sky, or even halt in the middle to burn away in fiery flight. The young lovers there sit in the park, and as a new star arises to illuminate their faces in a strange way, they say, "I have never seen you in this light before." It was there that Radiance aimed to dance for, but she slipped and streaked all the way to a mill town only a ways south of my home, on a branch of the big river before it runs rocky to marshy. From their point of view, she came down in graceful repose, with purpose and meaning, when the truth was that her acquaintance with them was happy accident, and it was all she could do not to crash and boil the river water to foaming steam. Nevertheless, Radiance was glad to come to Ethan, and she will be missed. There is a pond down the road, past Lord Piers Hill, where a good friend of mine lives. In the springtime, I like to visit more especially than other seasons, to hear the old songs of Frog Pond. Julio and I were in the service together, and that bond never fades. So sometimes our talks are solemn, other times they are joyful, as we launch the canoes from the shore and drift in the midst of the seed pods and seed parachutes and honeybees and bumblebees and butterflies and dragonflies sailing from side to side. As the water carries us by breeze, we tend to find time of day slips away as the light does, and we bring the boats to shore to fare the sun well with the proud and noble bullfrog chorus. Hum, it always begins, as they encircle the banks and sit perched from their lily pads. Julio and I remove our hats and close our eyes to honor the ceremonious prayer song. It comes up from each side in perfect round harmony that breaks ever so slowly over the next several minutes and is cacophonous free-for-all by the time twilight fades. Under the stars, Julio and I set a fire and camp, then wake to the bullfrogs' greeting of the morning, which, unlike their sunset song, starts as a jangling crossfire of rivets and croaks, but swells to one glorious high note before the daylight drives their slimy backs into the pond again. But speaking of stories incomplete and partial, my mind brings me to one such example that takes place in many parts of Ethan, and one I've attended myself. Here in the woods at the brim of the great valley, we call it the Moonshadow Ghost Theater. On full moon nights, the forest transforms into a panoply of mute dramas. So during the day, Patty Rose and I are sure to nap in the afternoon so that we do not snooze through the show. It is exciting to awaken to a dark house, just as the dusk has turned blue beyond the window and swapped sun for moon. We prepare a picnic by candlelight, whispering over the correct amount of jam to use, somehow by the darkness, under the impression we need to keep quiet. Once the moon turns from blood red at the horizon to milky white in the deep blue sky, casting a sharp silver spotlight on the land and trees, we know it is time to start down the path to the Moonshadow Ghost Theater. Under the oak trees, the only noise is from the light rattling of leaves up above, that and our footsteps, as we tread into the obscure, into the bizarre, from the relative predictable safety of hard moonbeams in the open fields. Here and there, as the path wears on like a clever river snake in a mountain stream, there is a break in the powerful armored canopy, and down flows the moonlight, full and stark, and as colorless as the fading periphery of your sightline, as a scene takes shape. In each clearing, a drama plays out, rehearsed and coordinated, the forest floor the stage, the moon the lighting, the players, ghosts. Some are mere snippets, giving us not even time to lay our quilt, just popping up long enough for us to gasp at the twist and move on down the path to the next scene. And just as we think the image of the dishonored king will stick in our minds forever, our heart leaps in our chests as two new apparitions materialize and mime the battle of the dragon who sought to regain his birthright of his fiery breath from the thieving wizard. Our minds fill in the voices and sounds, far more convincing than any traditional play's sound effects. And just when we think the ghost players have broken their vow of silence, it's only the wind at our collars, and another scene ends with vanishing actors after a solemn bow. The gallery presses on, showing feats of daring, ageless love stories, lofty kings, and funny ironies, all quiet in the breaks within the tall trees. They are resourceful too. With the moonlight they make believe it is a rushing waterfall sometimes, and some will dance with their moon shadows, who mimic them almost perfectly, but just wrong enough to tip the audience off. In each clearing there is a show until the moon shifts, and the ghosts vanish as they came. Except those longer plays where the moon's route is part of the show, and the ghosts travel along their crawling, wrinkly sheet, never once disturbing the leaves along their path. Soon enough, our picnic basket was empty, and each time we sat on the blanket for a new vignette, we found it harder to rise again. And at our last show, the last one of the night, a foppish spirit in tights and tunic invited Patty Rose into the circle of silver light, and bowed to her, running his disembodied hand down her cheek before doing so, and then he was gone. So we guessed at the meaning in the lulls of our discussion about which parts we enjoyed the most, and she told me she could feel the hand, but that it was weightless and did not press her skin. And finally we slept the day away, paying the well-worthy price of a night at the Moonshadow Ghost Theater. I have another ghost story for you. Actually, I have several, but I am sure you have had your fill for now, so we will revisit ghosts later. By now you know there are all manner of things in Ethan, ghosts among them.